All right, so this just in. James Charles, oh my God.
James Charles being accused.
He got kicked out of the YouTube Partner Program. We all know what these allegations are.
I'm not physically attracted to older guys.
If you want to talk about someone who should be in jail, this one was kind of the worst one yet.
Hi, sisters. James Charles here.
Now, James Charles isn't exactly a stranger to controversy. Over the last couple of years, he's managed to weather a number of scandals that could have easily ended his career. But with the mountain of allegations coming out against him over the course of March 2021, James's time might be up. You might be surprised to learn that some celebrities have been trying to warn us about this influencer for years. Now, you might be wondering why someone as well known as Ariana Grande only comes in at number 8 on this list. And, well, that's because most of the story actually comes from James's point of view, and it really only boils down to a single incident. Back in May of 2018, James caused a bit of a stir when he released an episode of his Beauty Battle series. In this one particular episode, titled Shane Dawson and Rylan Do My Makeup, Shane asked him what the worst celebrity action he'd ever had was, to which James very quickly replied that he once had a pretty bad encounter with Ariana Grande.
Who's been the rudest celebrity you've ever met?
Ariana Grande.
Can you talk about this?
Yeah, I guess.
He explains that he had been super vocal about attending one of her shows and that Ariana had reached out to him herself to say thank you. But at the time, James was already in the middle of another scandal. And so Ariana's fans immediately let her know how upset they were that she was talking to him. And that quickly led to Ariana cutting James off, explaining that her fans were important to her and that she wouldn't want to disappoint them. We're not sure who had a better call in judgment here, Ariana or her fans. But either way, James has since apologized for the things he said about her in that video. At the beginning of April 2021, YouTuber Blair White made waves when she uploaded a video to her channel directly calling James out. She goes into a lot of detail about why she believes that James is dangerous and why the allegations of him sending inappropriate messages to so many underage boys isn't okay. It's really just a rebuttal to a lot of the arguments that James and others have made in his defense. She points out a lot of inconsistencies in James' story and especially focuses on him claiming not to know their ages?
Impossible.
As she says, James could have easily found out their ages if he wanted to. Because, well, they're in the boys' social media bios.
Like, if it was a one-time occurrence, I think you have a right for the world to forgive you. Like, oh, someone lied to him about their age. But then you have boy after boy after boy after boy, and oh, this one has his age in his bio, 16 the entire time, and James doesn't care. It's just a mess.
She also brings up another interesting point that not a lot of people have really mentioned. James has been able to, essentially, slip under the radar and go unnoticed for so long because of the way he looks. And, by that she means even though he's a guy, he's still super feminine. He doesn't fit the stereotypical image of someone who would behave in the way he's being accused of. She says, quote, he still benefits from this, veneer of, fabulosity and glamour and femininity that protects him. Blair also says that because of this, people have taken to writing it off as something that isn't very serious. Okay, so we might be cheating on this one a little bit, but it's my list, so whatever. You really can't talk about one without at least mentioning the other here. Separating Toddy and Jeffrey's involvement in the Bi-Sister scandal into individual actions is really hard. They're so closely tied together. So, for those of you who might not know, back in 2019, Toddy Westbrook released a video titled, you guessed it, Bi-Sister. It was something that really shook up the whole beauty community on YouTube. At the time, Toddy was in the process of launching her own company, Halo Beauty. And so, the video really just started off as a way to call James out for doing product placement with someone else instead of supporting her. Being heard about that is honestly pretty understandable because, well, they're meant to be friends, right? However, as the video went on, it became clear that Toddy had more serious allegations to make against him. She claimed that he was pressuring straight men into having relations with him against their will, and heavily criticized him for that.
To manipulate
someone's sexuality, especially when they are still, emerging into adulthood and don't quite have everything figured out. You are using your fame, your power, your money to play with people's emotions, and you're doing that to have them behave sexually in your favor, even if they're straight. And you know what? That's not okay.
Because of James's popularity, the video immediately went viral, with James losing over 3 million followers because of it. Jeffree, for his part, made a whole series of pretty nasty tweets about James after that video went viral. He really didn't hold back in his opinion of James at all, saying things like, "There's a reason why I haven't seen him since Toddy's birthday in February. He's a danger to society." He even went after James's younger brother on Twitter at one point. But at the time, James managed to redeem his image by uploading a response video called "No More Lies." He produced a bunch of receipts, essentially proving his innocence. It resulted in Toddy and Jeffree facing a ton of backlash instead, because it really just came across as though they were trying to take James down for their own benefit. They were criticized a lot for only caring about the hurt James had potentially caused other people, when it was for their own gain. But whatever their motivations were at the time, seems like maybe they weren't entirely wrong. Now, we know that Tana appearing on this list might come as something of a shock to some people. But back in 2019, during the Bi Sister scandal, and when the first series of allegations started coming out against James, Tana was a very vocal supporter of James. At the time, she was doing her best to defend somebody that she considered a close friend. And, like most friends probably would in that situation, spoke out against the allegations, saying, quote, "Legit watching you lie like this and get away with it is breaking my heart. He's a person too. You and I know the truth." However, all of that seems to have changed. With everything that's been coming out against James recently, old tweets like that one have been resurfacing, and Tana has openly apologized for her words during that time.
Well. How the turntables.
Saying in a response tweet that she was, quote, 100% manipulated and begged to tweet that. I was defending someone that was my friend at the time and believed them. Sad to see. She finished her statement by saying that things change. And if the shady TikTok she posted at the beginning of April clearly aimed towards James is anything to go by, then that is definitely true. As a commentary YouTuber, DAngelo is no stranger to the ways of the internet. He's been making in-depth, heavily researched videos on other big-name influencers for a while now. He's used to calling people out on their behavior, and that definitely includes James Charles. He's currently in the process of deleting the videos because he feels like the information is now inaccurate. But DAngelo once made a series focused on the beauty community. He focused on people like Jeffree Star, Toddy Westbrook, and James Charles. He really holed in on the whole Bi Sister scandal and put a lot of work into really just exposing what really happened. But even though he's deleted the videos and they're not on his channel anymore, DAngelo has still been super critical of James's recent behavior. In one of his live streams, he went through James's entire taking accountability video and picked it apart. At one point during the stream, he even said, quote, all of these people need to just legitimately have their platforms removed. I am okay with deplatforming if the platform is used to harm children. You know what? He's got a point. Now, anyone who has been keeping up with the whole James situation will already know that Trisha Paytas has been all over it since the first accusations first started coming out. And even after his apology video first came out, she hasn't let it fade into the background. She's really put a lot of work into making sure that people continue to talk about the allegations and keeping his name a topic of conversation. She hasn't shied away from being incredibly critical of him. On one episode of Frenemies, as they're discussing his apology video, she even says, quote, you know what? These people who are sick like this, they keep doing it. Normal people would be like, I got caught, not gonna do it again. But sick people, can't help themselves but to do it again. And it's not like she's limited herself to talking about him on Frenemies either. She's been super vocal about him on Twitter too. The end of March 2021 saw her going after him pretty ruthlessly, saying things like, James Charles deserves prison. I really hope one of these parents press charges. It's so nauseating. And I'll say without a shadow of a doubt that James Charles is the only creator that deserves to be banned and stripped from all platforms. In short, Trisha really went in. And finally, we have reached our number one, James Charles himself. There really isn't anyone else on this list who has done more to warn us about James Charles than, well, James. Because yes, the people calling him out and trying to draw attention to the allegations surrounding him are important. They're keeping the pressure on, and that shouldn't be ignored. But there's something more important to keep in mind here. James thought this was an acceptable way to behave in the first place.
First time.
Yeah, he might have made an apology video addressing the accusations, and yeah, he may have promised to start holding himself more accountable. However, so much of what he's been accused of at the moment are things that he has already had to apologize for. This isn't a one-time thing. You know, there are multiple clips of him joking about talking to high schoolers or waiting for people to turn 18. It's disgusting, and it's not new. And on top of that, he's even admitted to some of the things he's being accused of. Because, you know, you can only really be called out for the same patterns and behavior so many times before people start to question your authenticity. And it seems like people are starting to get fed up with the constant promises to change and do better that never seem to go anywhere. Well, did we miss anybody off the list? Do you think that anybody deserves to be talked about more? Let us know in the comments below.